This is all. Welcome everyone to our first meeting of the year, of the new year, with the Magic Rotary. I brought my wand, and I think Debbie Brownell is going to lead us in the pledge.
Actions that we're going to do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and.
So as I mentioned, I'm a little old fashioned. So I'm going to do a faith-based inspiration today. Joshua Dubois was a former White House director of faith-based and neighborhood partnerships. And he has this little passage on sincerity. And I thought of our Rotary four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. And the first thing is it the truth? So, sincerity. For we are not, like so many, peddlers of God's word, but as men of sincerity, as commissioned by God in the sight of God, we speak in Christ, as from 2 Corinthians 2:17. And from Maya Angelou, singing and swinging and getting merry like Christmas, a bizarre sensation pervades a relationship of pretense. No truth seems true. A simple morning's greeting and response appear loaded with innuendo and fraught with implications. Each nicety becomes more sterile, and each withdrawal more permanent. Let's focus on sincerity today, from our motives to our words to the impressions we leave behind. Let's avoid pretense and be pure, as Christ's words left timeless impressions with simple truth, so may ours. And his prayer, dear God, leaven me with sincerity. Remove any pretense and help me approach this day with truth. Amen.
Thank you, Debbie.
Well, I kind of focused on truth for the four-way test.
Very good. Thank you very much. That was lovely. So you have any visiting Rotarians today? Carolyn. Hi, this is Carolyn Brooks. Welcome from the Wednesday Club. And do we have any guests? Other guests? Okay. Before we do announcements, I'm going to share something sad. Some of us talked about what part of the program to share this, but we're just going to do it. Last evening, Kelly Moody's grandson was in a very serious motorcycle accident. And so we have a couple of cards going around, sending her love and positive wishes and so forth. So that's a sad situation, but that's what it is. And announcements, if people want to make announcements, you should line up over here, please. And I'm going to make one quickly, or just a reminder that the district conference is May 16th to 18th in Grants Pass next year. Our club is actually considering being the primary host for the Friday program, which is up at Fairgrounds, and it'd be kind of a cowboy theme. And so we're hoping Jody McDonald could show up on a horse and bring her rhinestone hat and belts and so forth. But we do need leadership for that. And also a reminder today for those of us here who have hearing problems, please use the microphone or wait until we get the microphone to you. Okay, announcements.
Okay, I'm in shock about Kelly Moody's family. I just spoke with her yesterday and she was gonna back me up on my announcement. Well, I am sincerely passionate about early childhood literacy. First announcement, at our library, we have Sprout a Reader on Thursday mornings. And we just lost one of our volunteers, so if anybody here is interested in reading to 0 to 5-year-olds in our library, please come talk to me or call the library, the youth library. Yeah. Annie Blanchard came and talked here, and so what she's doing to get ready for kindergarten. It is a huge issue in our community. And I got really inspired by the new Rotary magazine that said, you know, get a group together, do an action plan for something needed in your community. So with Kelly's permission, we're already doing amazing stuff with our literacy team, but we're working on K and up. And I would love to know if there's anybody here who wants to do some research about how we can boost the preschool and early literacy before that. It's a tough one, but it's huge need. And you do have people in the community who are working on it, and maybe we could help. Any hands of anyone who might be interested in that? Thank you. Great, so thank you all, that's my announcement. And also again, volunteering Thursday mornings, Sprout a Reader, check with me or the library, thank you.
I just want to thank everyone for the social that we had about 2 weeks ago. It was really great. It's a lot of fun. And also for the very thoughtful gift, which was the Oregon ash tree. And you happy to know that early on the 4th of July, Doug and I went down to Veterans Village and stood in the mark, which is this seat, and planted the Oregon ash tree. So hopefully it will take root and be a great tree. Thank you.
Jim looks good in the mud, too, so you're good out there. First event went off really well, and we're right now gathering up the dollar amounts, net dollar amounts, and then also some of the carryover we had in previous years. Because of the previous years, we never sent down everything that we were giving to the club. So we'll be figuring out what that dollar amount is and send it off to the recipients in the near future. And thank you to everybody who made Porch Fest happen. It was fantastic. And then second announcement is we are kind of sort of going to commit the club to sponsoring a square of chalk art at the chalk art along the road in October, which means we're going to look for a few people that want to help. Get out your hands and knees, crawl around the pavement and do chalk art and somebody back there. I think it'll be fun. But also, I'm not gonna be around that weekend, unfortunately, but so one of you that have to take charge. The lead artist is from the library, and we're gonna coordinate with the library, it's gonna be sort of their design with help and everything. I think that's it.
Any more announcements?
Oh, I did? Clap better now. Come on. Jesus. Yeah.
Well, I have an announcement, but I should save it for sergeants, but I won't. There's been a new drink developed. It's called the, what's your name? The Doug Walker drink, and at the party for him, several people came up and said they would like red wine on ice. And I said, really? And they said, well, that's what Doug's drinking. And I said, okay, so I thought that was pretty fun. Okay, now we'll have our, the introduction of our speaker, and I think it's gonna do that. Margaret Bradford, thank you.
So this is Craig Ackerman, and he's been involved with managing and protecting public lands for over 46 years, beginning in the state of West Virginia as a park superintendent, including the state's largest park, a special botanical preserve. Also a historic Civil War battlefield, and he currently serves as superintendent of Crater Lake National Park, and has worked in that capacity since May 2008. And I have a very lengthy description of what Craig does, and I'm going to let him tell you.
Snap it, just snap it.
Snaps already.
Great, thank you very much for being here. I have a 35-minute presentation that I'm gonna try to get in 15. So hopefully we'll speed through this as quickly as possible. Thank you for the introduction. I've been in Oregon now 34 years, and I actually live in Grants Pass. So I have a home here just off Wooded Boulevard, so I'm familiar with everything that's been going on for the last 34 years. Prior to Clear Lake, I was superintendent of the Oregon Community for a long time. So, very quickly, I'm gonna start off really quick with an abbreviated trivia question here. And, who can tell me what was the first national park in the United States and the world? Anybody? Yellowstone, absolutely. Well, it was 1876, which was created. There you go, you have a prize. Okay, so Yellowstone was the first. Great Lake is a very old national park as well. Anybody can take a guess as to where we rank as the oldest national parks in the United States, Crater Lake? Just take a guess. Getting closer. Did you say fifth? It's number 5. There you go. Crater Lake was created in 1902 with the Cook Park after Sequoia National Park. Yellowstone, Sequoia, Yosemite, and Mount Rainier were before us. So one more quick question, and it's in the state of Oregon. I think most people know that Crater Lake is the only national park in the state of Oregon. But can anyone guess how many national park sites there are? That includes national monuments, historic areas, things like that. Maybe a hint, it's between 1 and 10. Get closer. There you go. Crater Lake and Oregon Caves, and I was gonna ask if anybody knew the other 4, because 2 of them are pretty easy, but 2 are virtually impossible. The other one is John Day Fossil Beds in the central part of Oregon. And then what is now Lewis and Clark National Park up in Astoria, used to be called Fort Placid. And then there are 2 that are, no one in 34 years has guessed either one of these. One is the McLaughlin House, who was the chief factor for Fort Vancouver for the British company that ran that, the Hudson Bay Company. They preserved his house in Oregon City. It's part of the National Park Service. The other is really obscure. It's one of 38 units of this first National Historic Park. It's Chief Joseph's gravesite up in the northeast part of the state. So there's 6 national park units in the state of Oregon. Okay, we'll try to get this on. First of all, I understand that you folks are business people and you have to get back to work. So I told Judy, I am not offended whatsoever if you have to get up and walk out, especially if I run a little long. If you were at my campfire program and you got up and walked out after 15 minutes, I'd be unhappy. But here I understand the different constraints. Also, I'm willing to stay longer and answer any questions. So go ahead next. So when I spoke last at the Rotary, they asked me to come and tell them what was going on at Crater Lake. And it was in March, last March, so it was pretty easy. I showed them about 5 pictures like this, and I said, that's what's going on at Crater Lake. Thank you. If you have any questions, let me know. I can answer them. But I can't do that anymore because it's summer and there's a lot going on at Crater Lake right now. Next question. But before we get there, I just want to remind people, it was 115 in Grants Pass last week, but this was less than 60 days ago. These are the conditions that persist at clearing East Rim Drive, where we'll get up to 40 feet of snow in the winter time. So I was just up at Crater Lake yesterday working. We still have some significant patches of snow in the park. Believe it or not, even after those record high temperatures. Next. So I'm being interviewed tomorrow by an internet blogger, and she gave me 17 questions, and one of them is, what's one of the craziest situations you've ever dealt with at Crater Lake? So I said it was when Crater Lake became a specialty car conversion company. We had an incident where a young couple was moving to Ashland, and they drove their 2003 Volkswagen Jetta to the overlook near Devil's Backbone. And while they were looking at the lake, they turned around and they saw their car backing out of the parking lot, doing a 180-degree turn, and then disappearing down over the side of the caldera and falling 1,100 feet into the lake. It tumbled end over end over end. And halfway down, the witnesses said they saw a little white speck pop out when the doors and the sunroof popped off. It was their dog that was in the car. They said, my dog's in the car. And sure enough, the people looked down and they saw the little white speck starting to make its way all the way back up. And we came all the way back up with just some lacerations and abrasions, but it was at the back. And honest to goodness, they told me his name. Anyone want to guess what it was? It was Lucky. So and that's the picture of the car after we got it out of 35 feet away. It was a cube. So what's happening right now real quickly is last year, local company Osland just finished a $10 million rehabilitation of the Steel Information Center on the left. That building was built in the 1930s as a Ranger dormitory. It uses our information center since then. We don't have a real visitor center at Crater Lake. I've been trying to get one for 16 years, but the money keeps getting higher and higher, and we can't quite get there. So we did a complete rehabilitation of that historic structure, including rehabbing the video room where people see the orientation. Next. People ask why it was so expensive. It's because it's a historic restoration. Just much like the Crater Lake Lodge, everything had to be put back exactly the same as it was. So they had to do things like number all the flagstones and all the walkways and put them back in exactly the same place that they were. That's why I said, build me a new visitor center for $10 million. They said, well, this is a historic building, we have to protect it. It was damaged because the snow up there is so heavy that it pushes the buildings, pushes and pulls them, and it damages the structure. So this now has steel beams instead of wood, so hopefully it will last another 75 years. Next. Upcoming projects that you might be impacted by if you visit Crater Lake this year. We have a rehabilitation of the whole Rim Drive, 33 miles around the lake. It's a historic roadway. It's part of the scenic byway system, and it's also one of the few great American highways in the United States. And it's going to be completely redone at a cost of about $53 million under the Great America Outdoors Act, that was enacted a few years ago by Congress. Next. And the issue is, when that was built in the 1920s, they literally just went out with a paver and paved an inch of asphalt over unconsolidated pumice. So the road is just completely breaking up, especially in the higher elevation, 78,000 feet. And what they're doing is they're completely rehabbing the road, they're digging it out, they're reforming the subsurface and putting a several inch layer thick asphalt pavement on it. Normally, these things are way behind schedule. It was supposed to be a 5-year project, but there's a company out of Reading called Steve Manning, the best contractor we work with. They're actually ahead of schedule. So this year, there's only a small section closed. If you go to the park, the section from Scalehead to the Pinnacles Road will be closed. So you can go around the whole rim of the park. It's just you won't be able to access that little portion. And places like, if anybody's been to the park, hiking up the Mount Stock, which is the highest point in the park, that won't be available until the 1st of August. Another huge project that's coming up for us is a $49 million rehabilitation of the trail that goes down to the lake. There's only one way to legally access the lake, and that is the Fleetwood Cove Trail. It's about 13 miles from Lynn Village. That's not to say we don't have visitors illegally accessing the lake all the time and having to rescue them when they get pushed out. But there's only one legal way down to the lake. It's Fleetwood Cove Trail. And because it's built like the road on a collapsed volcano, it has constant problems. One of the biggest problems we have is rockfall. There are huge rocks. Some of them the size of the stable or a small car. It will fall and damage the trail. So this project is going to do multiple things. It's going to scale the rocks that are likely to come off first, and it's going to completely rebuild the trail and rebuild a lot of the retaining walls and things. Then after that occurs, next, the second phase of this is to rehabilitate the marina at the bottom. About 10 years ago, or excuse me, about 2010, that's 14 years ago, we spent $1.7 million to build that structure that you see on the left. It's a bulkhead that holds the dock into the shore so that boats can dock there for the tours. So they have a 75-year lifespan, lasted a year and a half. And what you see on the right is what we had. They did not anticipate the wave action. People look at Crater Lake and think it's a tiny little lake. It's 6 miles across. And we get waves that could be 4 feet tall and swells 4 feet behind them. And so it's significant wave action. So that all has to be rebuilt. That's why the project is so expensive. Next. But I think when you come down there, you'll see this is the mock-up of what the new proposed dock is gonna be. It's gonna have a floating dock section. It's gonna be adjustable because the water level of the Crater Lake is fairly stable. But over the last 100 years, it's fluctuated 14 feet up and down. So this will allow the dock to be taken up and down and protect people from the rocks that are falling occasionally. Hopefully there won't be any once we get the scaling down. Anyway, the important part about this for locals is this will start next year. It's a 2 to 3 year project, so that means that nobody will be able to get to the lake for 2 to 3 years. If anybody, any relatives coming in that want to go up to the lake, swim in the lake, take a boat tour, pick them up this year if you can. Another project that we have is there is no wireless communication, very little wireless communication at the park. People are always running around the rim, trying to find a place. You hear them shouting into their phones. That's by design in part in national parks, because it would be nice if people could leave that home. We also realize it's 2024 and it's important. So Verizon has applied to build 2 towers inside the park. One of them is going to go through pretty easily because it's down in Mazama Village where we have dormitories and things. The other is proposed for the historic Rim Village area near the lodge. I don't think that will ever be approved. They've been working on it for 5 years and have sent us iteration after iteration of design that are all crazier than the next. The first was supposed to be a monopole antenna. It would be the size of the tree, except the tree would be 100 feet taller than all the other trees around. The second was a flagpole that they were going to put next to the new visitor center we were going to build, but it was going to be 200 feet tall and 30 feet wide at the bottom, so that they should have their equipment inside the flagpole. So we rejected that. The latest iteration was they wanted to build a 225-foot tall fire lookout tower next to the lodge. So there's never been a fire lookout tower next to the lodge. So I think if you come in the future, you're going to get improved communications with the park, but it still won't be as good as it is in the county. And the reason that's important to us is people now are using their phones for information, access to the park. They want to know how crowded it is, how long it takes to get in. We don't accept cash anymore at the park. We're not allowed to accept cash. So people have to pay with a card, or they can pay in advance using their phone, but they can't pay in advance using their phone to clear out the park. The other thing is it limits our ability to put reservation systems in like other parks have. At Arches, they were so crowded that the state police closed the highway access to Arches National Park because it was creating a hazard. So they implemented reservations. That only works if you have cell phone coverage where people can show you the reservation or access it. So it's challenging at Crater Lake because of the remote location. The news that you probably read about in the paper is the issue we had with the previous concessionaire. Senator Wyden sent a letter to the director. I will tell you that the headline writers don't actually match what the facts are in the case, but we did have issues with that concessionaire in poor performance. They were required to either, we were going to terminate them or they had to sell the business to a different company. So they sold it to a company called Explore Us. We've been thrilled with them. They're a smaller concessionaire. They have fewer operations. They have come in and committed money and people to the operation to where it's a much better business than it was before. The previous concessionaire was trying to run the operation with 99 staff. The current concessionaire already has 210 staff. So what the previous company was really good and efficient, it tells you that they were trying to save costs over providing service. So everything's back in play now. The lodge is open, the dining room is open. During COVID, we had to close the dining room except for people who were lodge guests, and they went to buffet service only. That's all gone. It's back to the traditional way. You can go to the park, sit in the great lodge, you get a rocking chair on the back porch with a glass of wine and an appetizer, and watch the shooting stars in August and the Percy meteor shower comes by. So it's a great experience. Next. Also, we have another concessionaire that runs trolleys. This started about 10 years ago around the lake. It is an interpretive tour, but it also helps us remove the crowding from that rim drive. So by these trolleys operating, and we thought it was going to be a minimally successful operation, so we only had them on a special authorization, but it became so popular it became a concession contract. And they now run at least 10,000 people a year on these, and it removes about 140,000 vehicle miles from that circular trip around the lake, which is good because it reduces emissions, it reduces crowding. So this is a great company. Unfortunately, the owners are probably going to be retiring, so we're having a contract out in the next couple of months. If you know anybody that wants to run a trolley service at Crater Lake, please refer them to us. Next. One of the issues that we had with COVID is that we couldn't run boat tours. And then we got the new previous concessioner who wasn't very good at running boat tours. So they didn't run boat tours except a few days a year, even after they got the brand new boats last year. And we worked with them though, and they did buy these boats from our local Katana Craft manufacturer here in Grants Pass, at the same company that runs the road jet boats. And we now have 3 beautiful new boats that have about 50% more capacity, so they're able to take people. And instead of running 2 or 3 tours 10 to 12 days a week, this new concession is running 10 tours a day. And we'll be running them, they're running now from the 1st of July all the way through the middle of September. Again, if you have anybody in your family or visiting that wants to take a boat tour, do it this year because these will be closed for at least the next 2 years. So maybe 27 or 28 before you can even get back on the radio. Next. We have a variety of other programs. I mentioned the meteor showers. We have a night sky program that takes advantage of our dark skies. Some of you may have heard that the Oregon Outback Night Sky Sanctuary was just created in Eastern Oregon. It's the biggest night sky sanctuary in the world, over 2 million acres. I'm proud to say that we measured our light levels at Crater Lake, and they're even darker than the Oregon Outback. So we'll be getting a night sky, international night sky designation in the next couple of years, and we're taking advantage of it. We have a couple of rangers who are definitely good with astronomy. These programs are extremely popular, 100 people plus in every program. I encourage you to go, they're fascinating. There's a Crater Lake with the naked eye. You can see about 5 or 6 more times stars than you can see down here in the valley. And you can always see the Milky Way. Every night you can see the Milky Way stretched across the sky. If you want to stay up till 4 in the morning, you can also see the northern lights. Fires. We all live in Southern Oregon. We know fires are impactful, hugely impactful for us. Because if people read there's smoke in the area, they just avoid the area. So we try to keep up to date on our air monitors. Last year was incredibly smoke free for us, which is completely different than previous years where we had the park so smoked out and could not see the lake from the rim. But we had a great summer next. Last year we had less than 10 lightly started fires and a total of less than 10 acres burn. We have our own fire crew. They got on these fires really quickly, and we kept it suppressed, and there were not so many fires adjacent to us, so we had a really great year with super clear skies. We do have an air monitor under Purple Air, and you can go online and look at our air quality at any time, because it's very spotty. Sometimes Grant Pass is smoked out and we're clear, and sometimes it's vice versa. But we have a very successful fire program next. One of the things that we've been doing is fuels reduction. If you drive to Crater Lake, you'll see all of these giant piles of fuels where we're removing the ground fuel so that fires don't go from the ground up into the trees. I've got 100 complaints a summer from people who don't understand what this is and think we're creating a fire hazard. It's no more of a fire hazard in tile than it is spread out on the ground. And what we do is we go in the winter time and we burn these piles when it's safe to burn them, and it significantly reduces the risk around buildings and places that visitors want to do. One thing I want to touch on that will be happening at the end of the summer is our rim ride. We created this about 10 years ago, and it's a bicycle ride. We close 25 miles of that rim drive, and we allow only non-motorized use. It is extremely popular. Next. In the very first year that we started, we had 200 people come, and we ended up putting a few water jugs out around the rim. Now we have 6,000 people from all 50 states and 20 different countries. We have 5 rest stops, which is what that first image was showing you, that are staffed by 100 volunteers, where we have food, bicycle repairs, water, and it's all free. We've had people come back every year and do this, and we've had people say things like, it's the best experience I've ever had in my entire life. A few years ago, we had an 81-year-old and a 78-year-old wife both who had had open heart surgery within the last 6 months do this. And they could do it because we have now allowed pedal assist electric bikes. So it's the most fun thing I've done in my 47 years. It's like a carnival and a party. There are 6 people who will complain that they brought their motor home and the bicycles are interfering with their enjoyment of the park. And I told them, I said, we can't notify you in Massachusetts that this is going on. So they said, nobody told us. I said, you have to read all of this information. Because the people absolutely love it. It's not only bicycle built for 2, bicycle built for 4, people pulling their dogs and their kids in trailers. Unicyclists have done it. And as you see there, we have 2 groups from Bend and Reno that are high school ski groups that come up and do the entire 33 miles on roller skis. So it's a great event. If anybody's into bicycling, please come up. It's always the 1st and 2nd Saturdays in September. We have to do it then because we have to wait till Labor Day, so we don't interfere with the park visitation. But we have to do it before the snow starts in the middle of September. Yes. Real quickly, I'm going to end in a couple of minutes. I know that Rotary is very big on international programs, and it's one of the things that I'm most interested in. In 2016, after meeting with the Consul General from China in 2010 and the Oregon China Committee, we developed a sister park relationship with Yishan National Park in China. Oregon has, I don't know if a lot of folks know this, Oregon has the oldest sister state relationship in the United States with a province called Fujian Province in China. And that province is in kind of the southeast segment. It's right across the strait from Taiwan. It's a little different than Oregon, and that there are 44 million people. We cooked this up with Dennis Richardson. You remember Dennis was a representative and Secretary of State, and he was very much supportive of China relations. And we put this up with him and a couple of the consul generals, and it took 6 years because their government is much slower than ours. If you can believe that, and I really can believe that of the government. But we finally got it signed in 2016. This park, Fujian Province was the home for the current president, President Xi. So this park was recently designated as one of 5 core national parks in their new national park system. They're trying to emulate the system in the United States. Used to be a bunch of parks were called national parks, but they were owned by counties and cities and private groups. So now they have a real national park service. And Yishan is one of the 5 core parks. So tearing off of that, the embassy in Ljubljana, Slovenia read about our sister park arrangement in China. And they said, we want to be a sister park too with you. And it turns out that at the time, the ambassador to Ljubljana, Slovenia was from Medford and Brett Hartley. So he told him Crater Lake would be a great park to match with. And in 2017, we signed an agreement with this. This is a magnificent park in a part of the world that very few people seem to know about. It's where Italy, Austria, and the former Yugoslavia all come together. And this park is right in the Julian Alps, which is the eastern end of the Alps. It's one of those spectacular areas I've been to in my life. The people are very committed. They love their national park. It's on their flag. And they are some of the most environmentally conscious people I've met anywhere in the world. So a lot of national parks in our park service, you go, you sign an agreement, put it on the wall, and that's it. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to actually accomplish things. So we've been sharing a lot of best practices. We sent our aquatic ecologist over to do research on DNA, where alien fish are being brought into their high mountain lakes. We sent people over on accessibility, teaching them how to better do, or how to better make their parks accessible to people who are disabled. We sent our education coordinator over, and he taught in their schools and their school kids on environmental education programs. Next. So my vision is we now have 2 sister parks on 3 continents. We want to work together with them to enhance preservation of these protected areas, recreation, science, and education. And we've already started a bio pen pals operation trying to link the 3 national parks together in China, Slovenia, and the United States. And we're working with Fujian University and Oregon State University to do research on the two parks, shared research between the two parks in China. And we've just gotten True Out, and so we need to sign on to that too. So we're gonna have researchers, universities, public schools, all working together on 3 different national parks. And before I end, I have to put in a plug for our Crater Lake license plates. This was redesigned, last year with help of the Crater Lake Trust. And this is the most popular specialty license plate in the United States. We've sold over 350,000. It's a one-time $30 fee. Unlike the other ones, we have to pay every time you renew your license. You pay this once and done. And it has generated a lot that are endowment with the Oregon Community Foundation is now over $10 million. The land involvement allows us to participate in education and science programs and research at the park without having to worry about what they're doing in comments. Not completely, it's something that most parks, other parks don't have. We have that latitude to do things that are good without necessarily having to go through all the government bureaucracy to do it. So I think it's the prettiest plate out there. I encourage you next time you renew, get it pretty like this. So that's all I've got for you today. Do you have any questions or comments? Is there anything else? And I will tell you, my hearing went bad 2 days ago, so I may have to ask for interpretation.
Yes, so I have 2 questions. In this, where you're doing the plan to get, to renovate the road down the lake. Do you have any plan, anything to accommodate disabled people?
The federal government requires that anytime you do a major rehabilitation or build a new structure, that it has to meet not ADA. We don't meet American with Disabilities Act, we meet the Architectural Barriers Act. That's what the government's required to do. It's actually even more stringent. So what we have to do is on the dock in the marina, we have to build things that are accessible for people in wheelchairs, for people with hearing problems, sight problems, even if there's no technologically feasible way to get them down there today, because there could be in a decade or 50 years from now. So everything that you see down at the dock will be built for disabled and accessible consideration, as well as the trail. The one thing we can't change is the slope of the trail. Someone said, we can't make the trail the slope that's required for ABA or ADA. And they both have exceptions that say, if you essentially have to destroy what you're trying to do to make it accessible, it's an exception and you don't have to do it. The only way we could have met grade was to make the trail so long that it would have cost a couple $100 million, and it would have been a nightmare to maintain, because this is on the inside of a flat volcano, so it's constantly crumbling. The longer the trail, the higher the long-term cost to maintain. So what we can make accessible, we're making accessible, and then we're trying to figure out how we can harden the trail so that wheelchairs or power wheelchairs or something, a hoverboard becomes available in the future, that the facilities will all be accessible.
Greg and I think that we can drive the trolley around the lake. You want to talk to us?
They're always looking for drivers. So, so the homeless people I've gone up there, raining in the summer. Mike. It was, I went up there and there was 3 cars in front of me, and I went up there literally and the line was here at Planet Falls. Is there any way to know before you head up how busy it is? Yeah, we have a webcam on the entrance station, so we can look at the entrance station. We also post. I'll just tell you, between 10 and 3 are the worst time. But I think what you experienced, did you go up there on the 4th of July holiday? No. Okay. Prior to 4th of July, we were unable to get the north entrance open because there were so many trees down. We got the snow walk, but we had to clear the trees. So only one entrance was open. So everybody had to come to that entrance. Right. Okay. But we have occasionally at peak times, it's come around the holiday, we could wait up to an hour and a half to get in. We're remodeling. I didn't show you that project. We have a $2 million project with funding through the fees that we collect to widen the road and add booths so that we can minimize the wait time. So, when do we open? It's open 24 hours a day. If you can come in before the booth opens.
Nice.
So you mentioned the trolley, did you say, are you still able to drive the rim drive in the car?
Yes, you can. The trolley's able to go all the way around through the construction area. You're only able to go 28 miles and stop and go back around.
Two questions. Can you swim legally in Fairy Lake? And if you're driving, I imagine it's pretty cold. And who lives in the dormitories? Are they for the employees of the Fairy Lake?
I've been there long enough to know better than to swim in Crater Lake. People do swim. A lot of people think you cannot swim in the lake. That's just not true. What you can't do is we put a restriction in. You can't have any boats, personal flotation devices, scuba, snorkel, because all of those can bring in invasive aquatic species. Little larvae that live in a drop of water on a snorkel can come in and change the ecology of the lake. The temperature of the lake right now is between 55 and 60 degrees, but that's only the top 12 to 15 feet of water. After that, there's a thermocline, and the temperature is 38 degrees, all the way to the bottom, where it goes up to 60 degrees because there's still volcanic activity occurring. Excuse me? Oh, the dormitories, yes, I'm sorry. The dormitories are owned, not owned, the Park Service owns them, but they're operated by the concessionaire. So all of the dorms have concession staff. And the concession staff in most national parks is usually about 2/3 of people who are on J1 visas. They're internationals. They absolutely are some of the best employees in the park for two reasons. One is they really want to be there. Two is if they leave their visas revoked. So they don't want to come and they want to stay and work, and then they want to travel around the United States. But they're usually great people. I love to talk to them. They're all really great young kids and they're all happy to be here. I wish I could say they're all are.
Geology question. How much of the marsh in Upper Planet Lake came out of what is now Crater Lake?
That's a really good question. Crater Lake has 5 trillion gallons of water. It's enough water to have fresh water for every human being on Earth to have 700 liters of water. So of the 5 trillion gallons of water, about 200 billion a year seep out. For the last 50 years, they've conducted intermittent studies on the chemical composition because the lake water, though it's very clear, it's arguably the purest natural body of water on Earth. It has this chemical signature. And in all the studies, they've never found a single spring that represents water leaking out of the lake. Not certain where it goes, but you're on the mark because the most porous part of the caldera is on the east side. So the 200 billion gallons of water a year seeps out on the east side, and it likely goes somewhere into the planet marsh, but nobody knows.
Marsh soil. How much of that came out of
Oh,
the soil itself?
oh, the soil.
Yeah.
There's no soil in the park that came from anywhere but Mount Mazama. Because Mount Mazama was 1,000 feet higher than Mount Hood when it blew up 7,700 years ago. And there are places like the Pumice Desert where pumice is 40 feet thick. That's why things don't grow there. Compared to Yellowstone, which is the biggest eruption of any volcanic activity that we've reported, that was called the largest. Crater Lake is considered to be a super volcano because of the eruption. When it erupted, the ash went around the Earth 3 times, and they found direct deposits all the way into central Canada. And it was as much as a couple of feet thick all the way up through central Oregon. So everything that we've got in the park is volcanic in origin. All of it goes down, but none of it just comes back up. Anything else? Oh, one more question? 2 more. 2 more.
In the past, you've had like some concert, something from 10 years ago, at piano concerts, orchestras. Things like that. Do you have plans for that in the future?
That was in 2016. It was the centennial of the National Park Service, and the Grit Festival got together with a composer from New York City, and they wrote a modern symphony just for the park. That was the reason that we had that music. Did any of you attend that, or did anybody try it? Wow. It required special taste to enjoy. It was a very unusual composition. But what they did was we brought the composer out, we brought him out in the winter, or in the summertime. He and his family from New York had two teenage kids who had never been outside of the heroes of New York, the hoods of New York. See, in fact, one of them on the boat was terrified because they thought they could see a tiger. So we also have to come out in the winter, because to understand the park, we have to understand the winter, because that's what really shapes the park. So he came out, he was so impressed, he went over and talked with Planet Tribe, that he wrote this symphony that was supposed to represent the eruption of the mountain and the park throughout the season. But we were extremely pleased we brought the Planet Tribe in and their drummers, but I personally thought it was a little heavy on the drum. Because you couldn't hear a lot of the other voices of the music of the drum. That was a once and done thing, but we do have something called in a landscape, where a person with a grand piano travels to national parks all over the United States and plays the grand piano. He was there, he's been there twice. I don't know if he's scheduled to come this summer again, but it's likely to come. One more question?
Last question, Doug.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you don't have a question? Oh, was that it?
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you see you next time.
Thank you so much, Craig. I know I speak for all of us. That was fascinating. You're like a living, walking encyclopedia of Crater Lake. And should you ever retire, which we don't want you to, but we hope you'll join this club, because you just are a fountain of information. That was just super. Thanks again. Okay, now I think we're gonna do sergeants. Leonora, are you out there? Oh, we have another guest we haven't introduced? We did that. Yeah.
We did.
Oh, okay. I was told we hadn't introduced our guest, sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, so today, we still have 12 cards to sell. Anybody, any takers? Okay, while Greg is doing that, we're gonna do our, Today in History. On, what is today, July 11th?
Yeah.
We have, in 1914, Babe Ruth made his major league, oh no. Hold on. I'm sorry.
Technology.
I know. Okay. Babe Ruth made his Major League Baseball debut as pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. So we're going to do a little trivia quiz here, and whoever wins gets to choose from Wild River Beer, Wild River IPA, and Wild River, I forget what the other one is called, Kolsch. There we go, you guys know it. Okay, so, and I'm asking Greg Fishwick to hang back on these questions. So, how old was Babe Ruth when he started playing in the majors? 19. We have a winner. Come up here, young lady, and collect your prize. Okay, the world saw Babe Ruth as a player in a Yankee uniform for the last time in which year? Close.
You just won 37.
Just one, don't be greedy.
36.
Close.
35.
No, Greg.
34.
1934. Gosh. Babe Ruth had how many home runs in his career?
More than I can count on my hands and feet.
Okay,
410.
anybody else? Lewis, come on up and get your beer. Where was Babe Ruth born? Everybody knows this. Who said in a hospital? Okay, he was born in Baltimore, Maryland. Beth, as runner-up, I'm sure he was born in a hospital. Come on up and get your prize. In his last season with the Red Sox in 1919, the Bay led the league with how many home runs? How many? 60. No. It's his last season.
In Boston, yeah.
Yes. With the Red Sox in 1919.
41.
56.
Come on, Lord. What, 29? Did I hear 29?
Yeah. You heard 29.
Who said 29? Doug, did you say 29?
Yeah.
Okay, come on up and get your prize. And what year was Babe Ruth traded to the New York Yankees?
1920.
Yes, you said 1920.
Because you
Oh,
said,
come on, Doug.
that was easy, because you said the last year was 1990. Yeah, that's why I knew it.
I wanted to give everybody a chance to win. Okay. So on this day in history also, but in 1977, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his work in advanced civil rights. So, do any of you know in which city was Martin Luther King born?
Mobile was the guess?
You're close.
That's Mississippi. So that-
It's Martin Luther King Jr., and it was somewhere in Georgia. Who said Atlanta?
Like 7.
You did, lady, and, we can have 2 prizes, come on. You can have your choice of whichever beverage you like. Go to you too, come on, you said it as well. Okay, how old was King when he was assassinated? 39. Come on, our fearless leader. Okay. What year was King assassinated?
68. No, 67.
68. Yes, you, sir, I believe. Confirms it. Yes.
Yeah, I said 68 also.
Yes, you did, but then you changed it to the beginning.
That's what I said, and you didn't say I was right.
Both of you, come on up and get your prizes. Okay, so in 1964, King won a prestigious prize. Which one was it? Exactly. Come on, Jenny. Whose techniques did King usually follow? Okay, I know. Who else said quality? We need to get somebody else. Come on, Peter. Okay, King led an important protest against what on April 3rd, 1968? What? That's kind of it. Why did they do that? I'll tell you what, we'll make this a multiple choice question. Was it slavery? Was it poverty?
Was it discrimination or was it starvation in India?
Discrimination.
No, thank you for playing. Anyone else? No, poverty, who said poverty? Come on, Lisa. And thank you all for participating. Okay, and, who has the cards?
They're on top. They're on top.
Oh, happy bucks. Who's got happy bucks? Anybody? Come on. All right, I have happy bucks because of the presentation. Greg, thank you very much. The national park is in, just north of where my grandmother was born, it's south of Ljubljana. And we spent time, Don and Steve and Fritz and I and kids were up there and did some biking and playing around. And yes, it's an amazing part of the world, amazing people. So, and I'm so proud of this partnership. So thank you, Craig. Today is my grandson Taos' 16th birthday. So here's to Taos. And we just had a great trip from out in the lake region of Italy and so grateful.
Our also Brenda Packer has 2 youth camps going on this weekend, well, actually this whole week, for middle school and high school kids this coming weekend. And it's the first time that Project Youth Plus is supporting the whole thing. We're really hoping that moving forward that will continue. So, yay!
I first have 10 very sad thoughts for Kelly's grandson. And then I have 5 for this fantastic speech he had today. And another 5 for the folk program that I went on the 1st of July. And it's going well. It's wonderful.
Anybody else? Come on, nobody's happy. Do you need a beer? I mean, I'm happy to oblige.
I am happy to be sitting here. I moved to Oregon in 1968. I saw a Crater Lake, and it was the most spectacular single thing I've ever seen in my life. Thank Craig for the great presentation. Yeah, excellent.
Anyone else?
Well, and that reminds me of a, Rotary exchange student who, loved her time here and then came back several years later and we said, well, what would you like to do? She said, I want to go to Crater Lake. It was so spectacular. She'd never seen anything like it, and that's what she wanted to do.
Anybody else?
For those of you who are teachers and think that you don't make a difference in kids' lives, you wouldn't. The experience of going back to Taiwan after 12 years and watching Lisa's second graders at that time graduating now see that teacher Lisa was there was incredible. You know, they rushed her. You couldn't believe that she had actually come back for their graduation, and all of the stories that they had to tell about what they had learned from her and the way that they had incorporated that into their lives was really touching.
Anybody else?
Kind of frivolous, but it's a big deal in our lives. But Saturday is Calvin's son and my great grandson's birthday, and it's only in 2 sleeps now.
Anybody else? I have to say that one of my best experiences at Crater Lake was running a marathon around, and it was absolutely beautiful. It is a magical place. It is indeed one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen.
Here's my happy book. I am retiring from hosting comedy. This will be my final comedy show this weekend, so if y'all wanna come, it's Friday and Saturday night, right here. And Susan Rice is our headliner, and she is hilarious. So I highly, highly recommend her, and I'm really stoked that I get to go out with the band with the one hit.
Anybody else? Thank you, Leonora. Wow. Okay, yeah, we're doing the card draw, and Craig, you wanna tell them what card you drew?
And of clubs.
And the clubs? All right, they love one. Very good. Well, thank you everyone from the readers to the, to our club here, to our venue, and that was, again, just a wonderful presentation, Leonora, that was a hoot. There's some extra beer up here, Lutz. And, we'll end today, and I want to say also that what a great way to start the year. That was just really, really interesting and positive. So thank you to everyone. Thought for the day. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. And that is from Mark Twain. See everybody next week.